Hello there my Jedi and Sith friends, my Mandalorians, my Megalorians, and I think I see Rotter trying to find his way in. Here's the plan guys. You can say anything but just don't mention his dad. He's nothing like him. He's his own man for goodness sake. But welcome one and all to another Star Wars video. It is I coming at you once again, your friend and your favourite galactic hostess, Star Wars Meg. And today we have some tantalizing Star Wars drama to talk about. I guess you can consider this the third part of my breakdown of the Art of Andor book. I've made 2 videos at this point. I broke down some fascinating deleted scenes, unused concepts. We spoke about the earliest version of the show when it was written by Jared Bush. But today, my friends, we're going to be talking about something which I would say is a bit more contentious. As you know, the book is full of quotes by Tony Gilroy, his ideas and collaborations with the concept artists, and ILM. But there's one quote that's been making the rounds that a lot of fans are not happy with. It sparked a huge fan uproar, and it concerns Tony Gilroy's opinion on Coruscant, his version compared to George Lucas's version in the prequel trilogy and Return of the Jedi. But here's the thing, in today's social media climate, people always need a good guy and a bad guy, and this quote is being masqueraded around social media, and it's not really being given its full context. I've already seen people who don't like Tony Gilroy to begin with come out and say that this is a personal attack against George Lucas and quote-unquote real Star Wars. I've seen this from fans who don't like Andor and those who say that it should be its own sci-fi, that it doesn't have anything to do with the Star Wars galaxy. I of course disagree with that take, and while actually on this occasion I disagree with Tony, we have to stay level-headed and we have to be fair. So let's take a look at what was actually said. I'll give you the short version first, and then we'll take a look at the full quote. The TLDR is this. Tony Gilroy was never a fan of the way the prequel trilogy depicted Coruscant. Its bright colours, the pristine nature of it, the grandiosity associated with the Jedi Temple. He prefers his version, which he describes as gritty and lived in. And before making Andor, he says his favourite iteration was from Rogue One, the flashback with Krennic and the Urso family. And if you know anything about Tony Gilroy and his view on Star Wars, this makes total sense. He's even admitted he's not a fan of what he calls the Star Wars royal family. He likes the underdogs and the everyday citizens going about their lives. And a lot of fans have been taking this quote to prove that, Tony Gilroy hates Star Wars. Now look, I'm a big fan of Andor for what it is, but I'm not going to pretend Tony Gilroy is the biggest Star Wars fanatic. In terms of Star Wars lore, he went to Pablo Hidalgo in the story group. He himself has admitted he doesn't know much, and before working on Rogue One and both seasons of Andor, he wasn't the biggest fan. He's become more of one since, but he's not a Star Wars nerd, not in the conventional sense. Now for some fans, that's fine. He gave us a brilliantly written Star Wars show, there are some fantastic characters, it builds up to Rogue One really well, so at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if he likes the same Star Wars that we do. But for others, it's a major problem. I mean, despite not knowing too much about the wider Star Wars universe, it's clear to me that Tony had nothing but passion and love when making this series. But let's talk about why this specific quote is a bit misleading. Tony's comments about Coruscant are nothing to do with changing the planet. They're less about a dislike of what came before, and more about the role the planet should play in this story, showing us a different side to it. He simply wanted to explore the iteration that he does enjoy, and that's already part of canon. There's so much of Coruscant that's unexplored in the films, and so Tony decided, why don't we show those? The bodegas, the apartments, the grittier side of this world. And by the way guys, it works, because the Jedi are gone. We're in the age of the Empire, the age of Palpatine. Coruscant during this time is supposed to be dull. There's always been the lower levels, there's always been the upper echelon, but overall Coruscant is not supposed to be the same as the days where Jedi Master Yoda and the rest of the council was sat in their seats at the temple. It's a different time for the galaxy, and this is something which George himself understood. If you look at the behind the scenes on his unmade show Underworld, Coruscant is very different compared to episodes 1 to 3. I know it isn't really a fair comparison because most of the show was going to be set in the lower levels, but gone is most of the vibrancy of the prequel trilogy, and in its place, stormtroopers, grey buildings with the Imperial emblem, and strict control. And across other material like the comics, as soon as Palpatine took over, there was a visual language shift. And it's not as if Tony Gilroy changed the world very much. I mean, of course, there are no Jedi running about. The skies might be a bit quieter than during the Clone Wars, but it's still the same planet with the same landmarks. It's just stylized a bit differently. And while a lot of fans got upset about this quote, what Tony's actually saying is that in order to make Coruscant feel like a place where people actually live, He wanted to shift the focus on depicting a grounded aesthetic, something we rarely see in the prequel trilogy. In fairness, we do see more of a grounded Coruscant in Episode 2, the Outlander Club, Cocoa Town, but again, it's all from the perspective of the so-called Star Wars royal family. But Tony wanted to immerse us in Coruscant life, not just show us the pristine skyline or Palpatine's office or the Senate, but the actual everyday lives of those who have to live there, sleep there, and eat there. And the best example of this can be found with Cassian and Bix from their apartment in Season 2. I understand if some people aren't a fan of this, but I don't think Tony Gilroy was saying that he was trying to change Coruscant, he hates the prequels, or the notion that it's some kind of middle finger to George. So I do think we have to chill a bit. I've seen so many people get really mad about this. But now I want to read you the full quote, because there is a lot that's left out. As you're going to see, my friends, it's more about Tony Gilroy's personal read on Coruscant, rather than him trying to make a huge, declarative, canon-changing statement. So here's what he says. I knew I needed the lower depths and high society. I want non-Marvel funk and non-soapy slick. I wanted vibrant, but also blemished, crazy, credible, and fascinating. How do we take Coruscant and make these rooms and faces and decor feel lived in and lush? How do you make it feel like someone built it, someone cleans it? How do you make it feel like it goes off the frame? And yes, it is Star Wars, but if we're gonna live here for 5 years, it's got to be alive. It's got to have some error to it. I want the audience inside the story and not just watching it. How do you get all of that and avoid sci-fi cliche? So really at the heart of all of his questions is who's actually living on Coruscant? Who are the everyday people who commute to and from the city? Who are those who clean the buildings? Who live in the apartments? Let's show that side of it. The lived-in Coruscant. And like I said, guys, he does say that the only bit of Coruscant he likes is from Rogue One, but only because it has a human aspect to it. That side of Star Wars is completely different, and both can coexist. The Jedi are long gone by this point, but even if this was said during the Clone Wars, it still makes sense. There's an estimated 1 to 3 trillion residents. Not all of those people are of note. They're not all going to be training to become Jedi or senators, they're just living very normal lives. I think it's because Tony says, the only part of Coruscant I liked was blah blah blah, that outlets are taking this to mean that it's some kind of diss of George's prequel trilogy. And I'm a huge prequel fan, I do prefer the prequel aesthetic, and even if Tony Gilroy hated the aesthetic from 1 to 3, his job was to make a great Star Wars show, and every single Star Wars creative to date has their own views on different Star Wars projects. They bring their own influence to the table. I would argue that someone like J.J. Abrams was far more anti-prequel than Tony Gilroy. J.J. literally wanted Hosnian Prime to be Coruscant. He wanted to blow it up. That's not something Tony did. But what do you guys think? What's your take? What's your position? Let me know in the comments down below.